Very pleased to welcome Ms. Rima Mrad, partner at BSA law firm in Dubai. Thank you very much for being with us. ESG within the legal sector in the Middle East remains a bit fluid or new, or what are the developments in this regard and how can we elevate that?
Obviously, first of all, thank you very much for the introduction. Basically, it's very difficult to talk about ESG on the level of MENA because the situation over the different MENA countries is different, especially in the context of ESG. ESG depends to a large extent on the financial, political, and economic situation of a country. Mm-hmm. So if we compare the situation across the Middle East, you can find that you have clusters. Mm-hmm. You have the GCC, which cannot be compared with other areas or countries in the Levant like Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, which cannot be compared to the experience of Egypt or of Turkey. So each of these countries developed its own approach and strategy with respect to ESG. What we can definitely confirm is that definitely the GCC countries, when it comes to the UAE especially, and Saudi Arabia, they have a much more advanced experience, much more evident and clear commitment, and they have embraced it within their overall strategies and goals for the coming years.
Yeah, but as you know, they announced, the GCC central banks announced in January unified laws in line with Europe that they are trying to unifying laws.
Exactly, yes.
So how do you foresee that?
It's going to be, I think it's going to be an experience similar to the ones of custom duties. Okay. They have a very good and successful experience when it comes to the unification of the customs regulations. Yet they have maintained some kind of liberty for certain countries to develop certain internal local regulations that they will impose on that effect. I think this is the same strategy or a relevant, very close strategy to that, because the optimal objective is to create a unified framework to allow the countries to work under it. Yeah. This will create some comparable opportunities and will not put any of the GCC countries on disadvantage with the other one.
Okay.
Extending
mandatory ESG reporting beyond publicly listed companies, such as family offices. We saw the recent families laws in Dubai specifically. As you know, family offices represent a big chunk of the whole economy in the Middle East and all over the world, but especially in the Middle East. How do you foresee that extending ESG reporting legally?
Definitely, extending ESG reporting is on the agenda, and it's something that is extremely important to monitor the involvement of the private sector and to also to engage with them. Yeah. Whether to get them to put it as an agenda item on their annual meetings, or to get them to commit on any way in any way or form to the overall ESG goals. But what is relatively, I believe, worth more consideration is that why do we specialize family companies versus other type of companies? I think the reporting should go on scales. Yeah. We need to choose out like who should report first and to work on this on stages instead of just choosing who should report from the ones who should not report. Yeah. At the end of the day, the market, especially in the GCC or in the Middle East at large, is based on family offices because you have family businesses who have developed their own, exactly, and they became like major players within their markets. But this should not put them at disadvantage, and we should not differentiate between them and other conventional companies which are working.
How can we elevate the legal sector in terms of ESG knowledge, getting ready, and all that? That's a very big thing. We're seeing lots of challenges in the legal sector.
Very good question. This is a very good question. I think it's not easy to do that, but what I think they can do is that you can take ESG into consideration when drafting any law. And to see how we can embrace it within the context of this law. Yeah. So you can see now we have seen a lot of work on the corporate taxation. Yeah. I'm sure down the line ESG will take a huge part of that, but we need to wait and see how it's going to work or how it's going to be implemented within it. But definitely when we do something like this, taking into consideration the ESG angle will help a lot. Yeah. It will start, even if not in terms of doing something imminent, but doing something down the line or having a special strategy, it will really help first increase awareness, preparing people to understand that they will have to deal with it sooner or later.
Yeah, greenwashing, as you know, after Credit Suisse and after Silicon Valley Bank and all that, although they generated world-class or top ESG reports, but they were not immune and all that. How can we avoid that in the Middle East?
Putting a clear framework as to how do you say it, the accuracy of reporting. And enforcement and accountability. That's what's most important. I think without accountability, you cannot hold anyone responsible for what they report. And the problem within the context of greenwashing is that there's no one that validates that these reportings are accurate.
What is your recommendation in this regard?
I think we can adopt it's not like I don't have a clear recommendation that we can adopt immediately, but I think it's a work in progress. It needs a lot of research, it needs a lot of analysis, but I think it's worth it to consider putting a framework for how they need to report. You can hold people responsible when you have clarity. When you can say you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you can go back and say you lied here, you did not lie here.
Yeah.
Today, no one knows. If you report anything on ESG, no one is there to tell you how did you do wrong or where did you do wrong.
Yeah. We're seeing the UAE leadership and the leadership in the Middle East overall are very keen to be the world's top.
Yes.
In ESG and sustainability, and this is something real. We're feeling it. We're seeing it every single day. However, the private sector is not going at the same pace. So, how can we do? What can we do there from the legal perspective to start? From the legal sector, what can we do in this regard?
What I think is very useful to know is that this is a very good sign. When you see the government at the forefront, it's a very good sign because this is a commitment from above. This is a commitment from the system itself. And usually, especially like if we take the UAE as an example, the private sector is very responsive to the government. They listen, they answer, and they implement. So if
how fast? This is the
issue
question.
I think if we didn't go through the COVID and the subsequent financial challenges that the world is facing at the moment, things would have been different. However, this put some kind of a pause on the overall plans of companies as to how they can embrace more ESG and how they can take part of it and how they can actively partner with the government to implement the overall objective of the government.
Global practices within your business, within your operations, what can you give us basically as advices or recommendation or case studies, for example, that you recommend for others to embrace?
I think it's worth watching the activities of certain companies that are really actively embracing ESG within their plans. I can give an example of Total Solar that is really making a huge impact, especially also on the level of the UAE. They're partnering with a lot of government authorities. This is a very clear example. I think a lot of people are witnessing it because they're proposing plans that are targeted towards the private sector, including the lease-to-own solar panels that they offer. This was a very
so they are going at the grassroots level.
I think what they're trying to do is noticeable, and at the same time it's one of the first initiatives to directly address the needs of the private sector and also offer them sustainable and cost-efficient alternatives.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mrad. Thank you very much.